has been a chorister there.
Yeah. I'm just pressing record.
Yep.
Well, I hope we're going to be joined by some other people. There's basically the three chaps, Joanne, that's actually a male name, Oliver, the 65 buy-to-lets, Sue, which is short for Suresh, he's in California, and Chris, the guy that said to me a week ago, I'm probably somewhere between 50 and 100. He's sort of gone quiet on me since then. So, yeah, that's basically where we are at the moment.
Yep.
In terms of bank accounts, did you know that it's almost impossible at the moment to get a UK business bank account? Right now, all the major players, so Barclays, NatWest, Lloyds, where my bank is, all of them are basically not opening up business bank accounts until the new year because they're busy doing all these bounce back loans.
That rings a bell that actually a few months, probably in July or early August, we were having a chat about finance because we were looking at a property, whether we could borrow some money to get a property, and our company accounts with NatWest. Yeah. And they sort of went, well, yes, we're not doing any loans this month, but we're expecting beginning of next month that the details of how we'll be doing business loans will come out. But I discussed with them the terms on which they'd previously been lending, and also found out that we'd only be considered because we already had an account with them, and that's
right. Well, I did think it was odd from Lloyds. I banked with them since 1985, and then from just to say a flat no just seemed a bit odd. But I did inquire about Arbuthnot Latham, which is an old city bank, goes back ages. The guy phoned me back yesterday and said, we can entertain the idea if you put £500,000 into your account.
Oh my goodness me, yeah. Yeah.
Bye. Anyway, so
certain aspects of what we're doing are probably going to have to wait until the banks are ready to cooperate.
Well, the good thing is Yorkshire and Clydesdale said yes yesterday. So, and they said it's about a week wait. So I'm happy on that. Yeah, I mean, realistically, I say nothing's going to happen until the new year, but this is my job tomorrow. These are those leaflets I have printed. So that's going to be my job the first hour of every day for about the next 2 weeks, going and seeing all these, sorting officers and so on. If I can get a good supply of leads coming in, then I'm sure sooner or later, amongst all of that, there will be some fairly interesting things that we can negotiate down. I think probably where we are, if we assume that none of the other the guys are going to join us, is the avenue open for us from now on is basically to find a property, to do all the due diligence possible, and then to tie up and I will advertise it if you like. There's a couple of property websites. You don't tell them where it is, but you basically give them the basic facts. And there are lots and lots of angel investors that will only invest once you have the actual physical thing to say, look, here it is. And these are the sort of equations. I think that's probably the way that we could go from this point onwards. And there are a lot of people that invest on that basis.
I think the part of the issue with the people that you've been talking to is that actually quite a lot of them might be ready to invest if you get to the point of saying, okay, we've got something we're ready to invest in.
That may be the case. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a good point. I mean, Joanne and Suresh both said timing's an issue. Oliver was also timing because he's just bought a load more of the buy-to-lets.
Yeah.
So, you know, arguably it may be that, Joanne is wanting to be admitted.
Excellent.
It's pronounced Joanne. Hello, Joanne. How are you? I can see the ceiling of an office, Joanne. Can you get, but I can't see you. You've got a very nice cloak stand.
Hi.
Yeah, we can see you, Joanne. Have you got
Hello,
video
can you
on?
hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Hello, Julia. Hi, Joan Cordova. How you doing?
I'm very well.
Apologize for the delay.
Don't worry, don't worry. I'd like to introduce you to Elizabeth. I don't know if she's there on the screen. Elizabeth is a Brit, Australian, living in Oxford, Headington, isn't it?
Yep.
Yep.
Hello, Elizabeth. Joan Cordova here from
that's...
London. I live in Greenwich, but I'm in Mayfair in London.
Yeah.
What's the FTSE done in the last hour, Joanne? After the announcement of the Brexit, the Irish deal.
Mira, to be honest with you, I've been in a meeting, so I don't know anything about now. I just came into the office. My portfolio is okay, so I just see rapidly what's going on there.
Yeah.
So I haven't taken any views so far on what's going on. I literally finished a lunch that it was extended, and I just drive from Richmond area down here to the city. I mean, it's bad traffic, really, very bad traffic. But anyway,
I thought London was deserted.
Actually, no. I mean, all Knightsbridge, Kensington is quite busy the road. Partially because the mayor of London is doing a lot of road work and changing the lane to expand into the cycling lane.
Right.
So a lot of disruptions on the road, but also quite a lot of cars and people on the street. I think that there's gonna be a lot of shopping, late shopping.
Yeah.
Christmas shopping.
It's February the 28th since I last went to London. That seems like I was filming the London Investor Show in Hammersmith, and it was that week that everyone realized this isn't a Chinese and Italy problem. It's now a worldwide problem.
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
When I filmed the London Investor Show on the 28th of February this year, it was that week that the market suddenly plunged because they realized that it wasn't a Chinese-Italy problem. It was now a worldwide problem. And the amount of people that attended that show was probably about 20% of what it normally would be, because, you know, suddenly everyone's getting paranoid about being infected, I suppose.
I think it was about a week after. No, it probably was that week actually that I went down to my son's school. That he'd been involved in writing and performing and playing the music for a play they were doing, and so they'd organised. We had parents of boys involved in the production, had drinks with the headmaster beforehand, and we were chatting in the car on the way down. Now, we probably don't want to be shaking hands. And then, of course, we met the headmaster, and he sort of held out his hand, and we automatically shook hands, and then we sort of went, maybe we shouldn't be doing this.
No, I know. It's just completely mad, isn't it? But how long have you lived in London, Johan?
I mean, I came to England 8 years ago, and I haven't left London. I'm a Londoner now. 8 years. 8 years.
Have you been outside of London?
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm not really. I still have places in my bucket list. Of course, the traditional places like Oxford, Cambridge. We moved down to Greenwich area, and from there easy to go to Kent. So on summertime, when the weather is good, we go to the coastline. Cornwall, very nice place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also Norfolk. I went to Norfolk recently. Northwest, northeast.
Yeah.
Whereabouts?
Yeah, trying to visit in different places.
Yeah.
Whereabouts did you go?
Pardon?
Whereabouts did you go in Norfolk?
We stay in King Lynn to the north,
Yeah.
and then from there we basically were driving to see all the beaches around, and then we went to the king's house where the queen father died. What's the name?
Round in
Sandringham.
Sandringham.
Was
Again?
it Sandringham?
Sandringham, yeah, that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we visit that place. Very nice state building, and yeah, very nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got
Actually,
family.
I actually like that part of England. Really, very good people. Age wise, I think it's more for retired people. Really, I noticed. I got a son. He's 4 years old. We struggle to find accommodation in a hotel that has something to do for kids. So there were
Oh,
no.
really? Right.
Yeah, so we struggle to have that kind of entertainment or amusement for toddlers.
Yeah.
So most of the people were there were basically adults, senior people.
Yeah.
Interesting. A lot of caravans and places for doing camping and staying in a facility. Very interesting things. I'm not really fancy of that, but
Yeah.
very good.
Yeah.
Elizabeth,
Woods
how old are your
green
kids?
area.
Mine are teenagers, 15 and 18.
Right.
15
Right.
and 18. Wow.
But we go up to Norfolk quite a lot because my mother's got a cottage up
Yeah.
there that we use. We're further east than Cromer, and one of the few
Well,
beaches.
we went to Cromer. We went to Cromer.
Yeah.
I drive complete to Cromer and then come back. Yeah. So we went along the whole coast. Yeah.
The last time we were up there, some point in the summer, my daughter cycled from where we were up to Cromer and back, so we were in range. But,
Right.
Wow.
Well, it's a good place to go cycling because it's so flat.
Yes.
There are hills here and there.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the few beaches that doesn't have pay and display parking. But it was one of the ones that they had that project last summer where they were pumping sand onto the beach around the gaswork and beyond to try and protect the gasworks at Bacton.
Oh dear.
So that was quite fun to watch last year.
Yeah, sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Nation.
Joanne, I spoke with Elizabeth a few days ago.
Yeah.
It's, this is a slightly movable feast at the moment. We're fairly keen to start early in the new year, but
Really?
obviously,
Okay.
it partly depends on the structure of the company and what we've got to start with and so on. Just give me a sort of general feeling as to where you are, since we last spoke about a week ago.
Yeah, sure. I'm looking for exiting some investment that I'm tired at the moment. So it's my question to you about the timing is essential because just for Elizabeth to know more about what I'm doing. So I'm investing in I got a prop trading organization, which is basically Quambox, this office. And it's the partnership is two people, so me and my partner, and the majority shareholders and investors on this partnership. We have pretty much all the capital commit at the moment on the current portfolio, and the portfolio manager of this portfolio investing at the moment on equity and the capital market in shares of companies in the US, but a little bit of UK as well, FTSE, but mainly exposure to US market. A part of this, I've also invested in a oil and gas company where I basically founder and co-founder of another initiative that we are bringing a U.S. company to London. We are putting capital to get that company alive and start trading in the UK. So my main target is to get at least between 10 to 20K free available for other investment. So far, I haven't done any property investment yet. I've been purely doing that portfolio of liquid assets. I haven't got any illiquid assets. I started searching about investing in properties, and I discussed with my partner to get a leg into the property business, and we were excited about the opportunities that are painting looking ahead with all this happening. So we really want to participate in get a leg in the portfolio of properties. I already evaluate co-investing where I bring some money, and also I'm looking for co-investors who basically will come with me to whatever is the proposal that I can bring onto the table. So this kind of approach. So I was looking for also other people who is willing to come with me in an investment proposition. So that basically will help me to secure an important stake on a project. A part of this, the other element that I have to consider is the experience and the fundamentals, of course, the financial fundamentals of any investment. So I need the management team, the experience of the management team, that the management team have good track record doing so on building and delivery on this development. We're talking about redevelopment. There are two business models that I was exploring. Initially, I started thinking HMO, buying, refurbish, or converting to high occupancy properties, and then having a investment model where I have a revenue stream from the rent. So rent it out and letting the property. And that's one angle. And the other angle that basically Julian bring to me is basically this interesting idea of commercial converting into residential, and then it's just a pure capital gain at the end on execution, which sounds very interesting. And I haven't considered that before, but it sounds for me like this is a very interesting idea. My only constraint is that I'm tied with, I need to liquidate some of the position that we have so far, and getting some additional cash free from the commitments. That was basically will put me something between 10 to 20K available that we could consider to put in a pool for property business. On top of this, I want to bring people onto the investment where I'm participating. So I want to bring also people with me to come and participate in this deal. That's the way I do things. That's what I'm doing on oil and gas, in mining, and other things. So I basically, if I like it, I just put my money, but also I bring somebody else to come with me. Where I'm more the investor that we have hands into the portfolio of assets, and I monitor that because I'm portfolio manager on this company. So I basically will be the eyes for the other co-investor that will basically bring into the table.
Yeah.
So that's where I am. In terms of the other investors, as I found that most of the people that I've been in conversation, they know that there is a good opportunity down the road. They are not in a desperate position for committing any money yet, but they know that there is opportunity. The situation is that today they are not queuing. They are not knocking the door asking for, I got the money that I want to invest now. That's not going to happen. It's the other way around. So we need to pursue and push them to make investment commitment. One of the guys that I was in conversation last week, he had 10K. He's a friend of mine. He wanted to invest and do trading with me, and I said, look, trading is quite high risk business. I know this business, so I don't recommend you to put your money in the trading with me, because I know what I'm doing, but I don't want you to risk that money in that ways. But I have some ideas to go into property. But yesterday he said to me, oh, I spoke to my wife, you know, typical thing. I spoke to my wife and we're not sure. I prefer to keep the liquidity enhance the bank account and see what's going to happen next year and make a decision next year. So, I mean, I'm trying to bring him on board with me, but that's going to be probably next year when he will decide what to do with the 10K he got available. So that's the challenge. So in terms of the capital, I think that I can bring my own money, but also I can bring other investors. That's what I basically want to offer so far. So that's what I'm doing. That's what I've been doing for multiple other transactions where I've been involved. And I haven't done property yet. That's gonna be the first time I'm doing property, so it's good. I'm taking all the necessary step on understanding and getting a close look at the property value and property prices and the investment proposition itself. The way you're proposing doing this, which is basically setting up a company with a special purpose, I think that I like that approach, because it gives us shareholders control, and that's essential. So I think that for that way, the angle is pretty much, I'm pretty much okay with doing that way. I just need to get more also knowledge about your technical team, who basically will deliver on the planning, architecture, and executing
get rid of this
the work.
phone call.
Yeah.
Sorry, but Julian Stewart.
No, go for it.
I tell you what, I'm actually on a Zoom call at the moment. No worries. Can we pick this up tomorrow? Okay. Oh, of course. Oh, gosh. Yeah. Absolutely. Yes, I've been. Yeah. Let's definitely talk tomorrow morning. Okay. Yeah, please. 9 o'clock or 9:30. Okay. Okay. Cheers. Bye. Sorry about that, guys. I'll turn it off.
It's all right. It's all right. It's all right. So that's where I am. So I'm very worried about the timing, but at the same time, when you send me the videos and the information about this consultation process that the government is opening now for changing the category or classification of property for making more flexible the conversion of commercial into residential. This process means to me that as the regulation is changing, we're gonna expect that by March probably. I mean, the consultation end of January, close end of January, which means that then we can take out the consultation. They have all these discussions to approve any changes on the law. That put us basically into end of February. So March really, I expect to have all these changes implemented. The question is it timing essential? Is timing is important? Could we basically commit to do something, but wait until the new framework is clear out, and then we initiate the incorporation of the company and all the subscriptions and so on as normal. But once we are pretty much clear about what's going to happen with the regulation, that's my main question. So it's a timing of the money, but also matching with the regulation, the regulatory change that is ongoing now, and we expect that if the consultation is closed on the end of January, we're going to expect that beginning of March, we're going to have basically the clarity about what is the new rules. And then we can initiate.
Are you talking about the permitted development rules? Right. Well, basically, the great thing is they're going to be released, they're going to be improved, but here is the government thing off the government's website that goes through literally chapter and verse everything you can do. Already, it is so much better than it's ever been before. And the government know that, and the reason why they're doing it is basically because they can see what's happening in the high street. And now they can even more so see what's happening with officers. You know, they're just being abandoned. And if they left it up to the local authorities, you know, they don't really want to give anyone planning permission, really. It's only the high streets are only going to change by government saying, look, you know, you can do this, this, and this, and this. So, I mean, I take your point. There are going to be changes, and they're going to get even better in April. But my feelings are that they're there now. You can change most officers into residential right now, providing they're not used as professional or sort of accountants and so on, and they slip into the B1 category. Then you can just crack on with it. You don't even you put in your pre-approval thing to the local council, and 56 days later, if they haven't come back to you, you can literally start building on day 57. So they're very good rules as it stands, and yes, I think they will get better. I think what's going to happen is literally in January there are going to be a lot of sellers of office space who haven't been paid for 9 months. They can't chuck out their tenants who haven't paid them. That's the government rule. That finishes on December the 31st.
This building is in Mayfair. I think that 80% of the properties are empty. So when you walk down the corridor, all the office spaces are empty.
Yeah.
I'm only one of the few that's still working. There is a gentleman in front, there is another one lawyer in the back, for quite a few people. And it's been like this whole year. And so it's not that there are people there, but there are no attending the office. It's like it's empty. So there is nobody, there is no occupation.
Well, I think what's going to happen.
I don't know. Most of the commercial will be in that. It's going to be in that situation.
I mean, what's going to happen? The way I see it is, come April, May, when most working people have probably just got the jab. You know, they'll be sort of all the people getting the jab now are basically the people that are retired and old and all the rest of it. But I think what's going to happen is, yes, you will get some people going back to the office because they like the, you know, rapport, that they feed off each other and so on. But I think what will happen is when companies, well, I think in January, there'll be an immediate reduction because you'll have lots of these landlords that haven't been paid for 9 months, just chucking their their property on the market. But I think what's going to happen, bear in mind, commercial leases tend to be longer than residential leases. They tend to be a year, 5 years, 10 years, you know, for retailers, sometimes 15. So they're not all going to come on the market straight away. You know, the lease isn't going to renew. They're still in operation. They're still making money or whatever, albeit from home. But I think they'll come to a decision where they think, hang on, do we really need that expensive £150,000 office space when we can get by with an office space that's slightly different, and it's probably only 20 grand, and it's a lot smaller, you know? So I think that's going to sort of start snowballing next year as people can get out of leases or start to.
Well, I think that you're totally right. I mentioned earlier that I visit on Norfolk this year. I went there in August, just right after the first wave.
Sorry, whereabouts do you go?
We went to Norfolk.
Oh yeah.
Middle of August, just the last part of the summer, just when the COVID restrictions were released after the second wave. But visiting the town center, visiting, you know, all the shops, it was completely dead. But it's not that the business is not closed because the COVID is completely shut down. So most of the businesses are complete on liquidations, or they were out of business. And they were basically
been going that way anyway. And the thing that's going to be really interesting is as we pick out of this, which areas will actually be able to pick up because more people are going, oh, well, we can work from home, so we can cope with living a bit further out. I know North Walsham fairly well, and there's been quite a lot of housing development, but I'd been talking, prior to all of this, I'd been talking to people in the centre of North Walsham, and in some of the market stalls and shops and stuff, and they'd been sort of saying, well, yeah, it doesn't actually help North Walsham town, because everybody who's buying the housing that's going up is just commuting into Norwich, and they do their shopping on the way home. Now, maybe some of that will change. I think around in Oxfordshire, I think we've got a much more connected area. With Norfolk, the problem is you can't go to North Norfolk and go on somewhere else. You're kind of end of the line.
It's Norfolk or bus.
Exactly. And I think that it's very, very interesting in Oxford. There are a lot of houses for sale, and I think the housing market is really moving because people from busier cities are going, actually, we can move somewhere a bit further out. So it may be people from London moving to Oxford, and people from Oxford are going, we don't need to be in town, we can move to that place in the country we've always wanted. I don't know, it's hard to know how much is actually, so there's a lot on the market, and I don't know how much it's turning over. But in terms of all the more rural, the towns that Julian's been talking of looking in, with Abingdon and Witney and Burford and all around, the potential for more people to be interested in saying, these are really nice places to live, and actually now we can get the lifestyle we're after. And for people who would previously have had office type work in those areas, go, well, why bother with an office? I can see hugely the potential.
Yeah.
One thing you said, Joanne, earlier about needing to know a little bit more about the team that Julian's got in mind and got people you've brought on board, and how we get the planning and the building processes and stuff. Knowing a bit more about those people and how things will work, and how decision making and for getting good projects off the ground. Once we get, there's sort of that phase of first we identify a property that will work, and then there's the making sure that what happens works.
Sure.
The other thing that I'm very concerned about is kind of being the first person to say, actually, yeah, this is the right timing for us, and we can put in on it. And yeah, just to fill you in, Joanne, I'm actually here on behalf of myself and my sister, and basically our mother is trying to pass on inheritance early, and she's always been very keen for us to consider property as a significant part of creating long-term investments. She wants us to be in a position to help our children. That's really what she's. So we have got a bit of capital we actually need to find the right things to start. So this does seem to be right place, right time. But I would be very concerned to make sure that by going in first, we're not bankrolling the whole process of looking around and looking around and looking around, and we still haven't found anything. So I would want to be very clear on how we're funding the search process versus making sure it's there.
Yeah,
for the...
I think the first thing, I'm not taking a salary from it, and whilst there is an amount for office costs, plainly, I'm going to have to look at that. I mean, sorry, I just showed this earlier. Johan, that's my job tomorrow, handing out leaflets and posties in Oxfordshire or in Witney. So there are a few little costs, and there will be a few little running costs. It might be something along the lines of, I don't know, 100 quid or 200 quid or something, rather than the 1,500 quid. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to start this business tomorrow. And I'm still going to be, it's asking me if I want to, if we get timed out, then just give it a minute and then go back onto the same bit. Yeah, so I'm going to start doing this tomorrow, because perhaps something I touched on, Johan, before you joined us, is I sent you effectively what was a plan, and the plan was raise £250,000 from investors and then £250,000 from commercial lenders.
Okay.
There are a number of ways to approach this. One way is to have, let's say, 50 grand and to go and identify the actual individual projects and go and speak to individual investors, pure joint venture partners and so on. So they would put up the 450 or whatever. You then have a fight over what percentage you're going to have out of that particular deal. But that is probably, unless suddenly someone comes up over the hill with, you know, a couple of £100 grand, that is probably the best way to go about this. I just want to also touch on something that you mentioned earlier on. You mentioned that you were, you know, when you were talking about property, Johan, you talked about HMOs. My view about where I want to go, just talking selfishly for a second, is where I want to be in about 5, 6, 7 years' time is to owning a number of properties that are paying me rent. So they're all cash positive, and I can live a different lifestyle, basically. Right now, what I'm sticking to is the thing that's, I think, is going to be the real great margin opportunity. Buying something that's falling like a stone and converting it to something at the moment isn't falling much. I think it will fall, but I think it will be very gentle, as all downturns prove. You know, residential, everyone's got to live somewhere. People don't need offices. So that simple fact shows that, you know, residential, I think, will come down, but it will be so gradual. Normally it takes 5 years from the top to the bottom, if you go back after the last 5 downturns. So you could argue that now, perhaps December or perhaps January is the top of the market. It's still pretty big. I know it's relaxed a bit in London, but in certain parts of the country, it's still hitting new highs. So, but I think that's going to tail off soon, as more and more people are made unemployed, and the furlough scheme comes to an end, and so on. So, but I still think we'll be selling into a market that's declining, but very gradually. But just to finish off on that, I quite like the idea of HMOs. I don't know if you know, Elizabeth, what an HMO is.
Oh, the housing in multiple occupations, stuff we've got so many of for students in Oxford.
Right. Well, I mean, we used to call them flat share in my day, but yeah, when you've got 3 or 4 different people in a house, yeah, each paying their rooms amount and so on, communal areas, blah blah blah. But that's where
the risk of defaulting or the tenant just to fail committee with the income to the payment is lower, because if you have 4, 1 can fail or delay, but you still have the other 3 that continue. So at some point you don't have so much disruptions on your revenue stream, although you have some penalties and so on. But yeah, but anyway, I guess that owning the property is one thing, and buying the property when it's down is good. Identifying the right location with a very low valuation in a place where we expect that the property 12 months later will be basically in a much better position. If you are proposing to use loan or commercial loans for buying the property, there's another story. So
well, I think if I can just inject there, at the moment you can get 80%, but you can't get 95%. And if we're around the 40% at 40 grand mark, well, you know, that doesn't work from a commercial lender. So, and I think that will get worse as well as the economy gets worse in the new year. Normally their loan to value amount, it gets more
Yeah.
stressed. So,
Yeah. But
you know,
I think that the things about the opportunity about commercial about renting, about taking a loan from for buying a property. So I just the line is broken.
I can hear you fine.
Okay, sorry. I wanted to say something. In regard to the commercial loan, I paint this scenario, right? So we buy the property cash, 100% cash. We buy the property at a lower price, cash on hand. Boom. I don't know, 200. Or even if you have cash in hand, we buy lower. We spend a little money on the renovations. I don't know how much it's gonna cost, depending on the state of the property. We expect that by the renovations, once it's finished and complete, we go to a bank and say to the bank, knock the door and say, look, I got this property. I want to get a mortgage on that property with a revaluation. So the property will be in a much better value compared to the acquisition plus the renovation cost. Suppose that you bought for 200 and then you spend 100 more, so it's 300. So that's what you invest. And then you go to the bank, knock the door and say, give me a valuation on this. And the bank said, okay, this property 400. So you now immediately you put 300 down on acquisition plus renovation, and then the bank will say I can afford you 400, and then of course they will know the loan to value. I think that it's gonna be 75, 80%.
Yeah.
So they won't basically borrow you the whole money, but at least you put the money on the property on the bank in a mortgage. We rent out the property. The rent will pay the mortgage, but then we get we release cash. We release cash, and then we use part of this cash from the mortgage that we receive from the bank, and then on top of it we put another equity investors, and then we get another money to buy the second property. That's the thing I think things should go, and then we're gonna build a snowflake effect, and then by the end of 2 years we're gonna have 4 properties.
I totally agree with you, and that's where I want to be. You know, in a few years from now, it can happen pretty quickly, in fairness. But in terms of the business plan, I had to make it as relatively straightforward. There are so many things that you can do in property, and that's one of the ways that you just said, Johan. But I had to basically keep it fairly simple, you know. But I certainly want to be. I want us to be in this in a Zoom meeting now, joking back about the fact that we had this first Zoom meeting in December 2020 when that amazing pandemic was happening, and so on, and it to be a distant memory because we've actually gone on. You know, it may be that you've decided, Elizabeth, to buy a couple of flats and the joint venture has sold it to you, or whatever it may be. I just think, you know, to me, this is a journey, and there are so many avenues to go down to make money. In the short term,
no, indeed,
you know, buy at a real discount, put development costs into it, and then sell it as high as you can, and then get out.
Yeah, and then get out. I like that. I like that because it's pretty straightforward. It's clear. It's A, B, and C. Done. Next one. I like that. The other is option that you might have down the road that we can consider, depending on how the market condition will change and the interest rate will change.
And there will be choices at each stage when we have a project that's ready for sale. There will be choices that can be made.
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
We won't be locked in.
Yeah.
We have to sell them. But it will depend on who is in the package and who needs paying out at the end of any given project.
Yeah. And I think people's priorities change over time, don't they? You know, you may need to realize some cash, Elizabeth, for school fees or something like that.
To be honest, I think what we're going to be doing is